You're listening to Built to Convert, the podcast where growth-minded marketers, founders, and creators come to level up. No hype, no guesswork, just bold insights that drive results. Let's go.
Hey guys, I'm Tyler Lane, founder of Session Interactive and the host of Built to Convert, where I talk with growth-minded leaders in healthcare, tech, e-commerce, and finance. We dig into how data, marketing, and strategy come together to help organizations make smarter decisions and scale with purpose in today's digital world. This episode is brought to you by Session Interactive, a digital marketing agency that helps businesses turn complex data into clear strategy. From SEO and analytics to paid media and content, Session zeroes in on what truly matters to drive growth, smarter decisions, and better user experiences. Known for their collaborative approach and measurable results, they partner with forward-thinking companies across industries to solve digital challenges and turn them into opportunities. All right, guys, today I've got Chad here from Rise 25. Who has done thousands of interviews with successful entrepreneurs and CEOs, and we're flipping the script, and he'll be interviewing me. Chad, always good to see you. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me today, Tyler. Looking forward to talking to you. I thought maybe we'd dive into a little bit of how credit unions can use cleaner analytics to their organizational advantage.
Yeah, love it.
Let's get into it. So credit unions collect a lot of marketing and member and campaign data, but not all of it is reliable or particularly easy to use. What does clean analytics mean inside of a credit union?
Yeah, I think, with any organization, regardless if it's credit union or not, it's essential to have directionally accurate data as much as possible. And coming into an organization, for us in particular, obviously, we're going to fixate on what your core goals are, and then we're going to help collaborate together with your key performance indicators are, and then evaluate your current analytics stack. So web analytics, for example, traditionally is Google Analytics with Google Tag Manager for event tagging, et cetera, and other aspects. And then there's obviously CRM and other integrated application softwares that credit unions use. I think the biggest thing for us right away is making sure what's the landscape currently, right? Around what they're collecting and how accurate is, what decisions they're looking to make off the data. And being in this industry for a while now, we have some assumptions that we can make and some strategies that we can roll out fairly quickly. Now we want to customize those to the individual and the particular organization. But a lot of that is, of course, making sure that application tracking is feeding back to Google Analytics, but it's also integrating with your CRM data as closely as possible and breaking that up based on service line, from whether it's a individual looking for a HELOC or looking to open up a basic checking account. Regardless, we want to make sure those are delineated properly. And a lot of that, honestly, is not established out of the box with some of these third-party application vendors. So it's really important and crucial to kind of weed out some of the noise and focus on some of those core application tracking mechanisms, and then develop a sample size after it's configured, and then start making decisions on optimization and management of your particular marketing campaigns.
From what I understand, not just credit unions, but financial institutions in general kind of have their data spread across websites, application platforms, CRM systems, branch activity, call centers, advertising platforms, a whole lot of things. Where do credit unions typically have the biggest data gaps?
Yeah, I think I'll just go back to what I said earlier, just around the applications. I mean, we've dealt with quite a few of the lack of data and a lack of attribution associated with individuals coming in and completing an application form. I think a lot of the credit unions we worked with over the years have the data, but it's not syncing back to analytics, so they have no idea on how to measure it or what campaigns are driving success and what individual channels or groups of channels are assisting in those conversion activities. So that's probably the number one piece, to be totally honest. In addition, secondary or tertiary priorities here is like raw consumer data or survey and customer insights that is coming into the fold more and more. Credit unions are great about getting human information from surveys and all of that qualitative information, which is awesome, and marrying that with application insights and other web analytics activities, it's incredibly powerful to give direction on campaign optimizations or content strategies. It's really beneficial stuff. So encouraging that, and a lot of these credit unions have that data in place, but they just need a couple of tweaks and kind of layering onto their existing strategy to make it so much more powerful. We've seen a lot of great success there.
Can leaders clearly understand data or these kind of analytics when they see them, or how can better analytics change those conversations so they can set their marketing budgets? Yeah,
that's a great question, because I think there's always layers, right? There's always the executive level dashboard versus a more granular, customizable dashboard that a marketing team would use on a daily basis. And I think that's just a clear breakdown. You want to make sure you're disseminating simplistic data and insights to the executive team. They're not in the weeds, and they shouldn't be, and they need to understand what's really valuable. Like, obviously our large language model visibility is really important these days and continue to evolve, but how is that correlating to conversions, and what channels are producing the highest level of conversions, and what's the grouping of channels that's contributing, because as we all know, we're integrating or interacting and engaging with a variety of channels before we ultimately convert, whether it's email or the website or some sort of advertisement. So it's really important to, one, as I mentioned, disseminate that data in simplistic layman's terms to the executive team, and then have a separate system that is really geared towards more customizable insights that a marketing team is going to use on a continuous basis. Now, and we really specialize in catering to both audiences and making sure that there's clean, consistent messaging being sent over to the executive team, and a little bit more nuance and customization that's being sent over to the individual marketing teams.
I'm sure marketing teams deal with kind of all kinds of data and feedback and things like that. Are there any metrics maybe that are being overvalued?
Yeah, I mean, I think this isn't really necessarily specific to credit unions, but it's happening across the board still. It's, as humans, we're geared towards appealing to these vanity metrics, right? We all of us want to see these kind of up and to the right graphs, and that used to be so common, and still is kind of that fixation for traffic and impressions and clicks, which at the end of the day are KPIs for sure, but they're not really what we are looking for. We're ultimately looking for engagement within the site and subsequent conversions, and assigning value to those conversions. We can get you traffic all day. We can support impressions and things like that, of course. But what really develops more of the performance rapport with our clients, of course, is those more indirect and direct conversions within a site, whether it's clicking, downloading, hovering, interacting, and then ultimately completing some sort of form or some sort of personal information. That's the gold. That's really the biggest piece. So it's constant education, I think, too, with our clients and our prospects as well, to ensure that they're focusing in on really what matters. And the classic line here, Chad, honestly, is like, great, maybe traffic is stagnant or even declining, but if your engagement and conversions are up, what's more important at the end of the day? And that's a little bit of re-education, because for so long, we've always just wanted everything to move up. And in actuality, what's most important is actually engagement and conversions.
Sure. So for a credit union, a conversion, which would lead to growth, could mean, new members, more deposits, loan applications, deeper relationships, stronger retention, things like that. What metrics better connect marketing activity to that kind of growth or to those kind of conversions?
Yeah, I think I'll tie in kind of some of our conversion rate optimization components that we do. So hopefully, anyone's in marketing is aware that attribution has become more and more difficult with the advent of generative AI, as people are conducting more and more research within LLM platforms, within Google's AI overviews. and clicking less. And so there's an argument that when people do ultimately engage with a website, they're further down the research phase, and that engagement that they have on the website is so much more valuable because it's happening less and less ultimately. So we really want to make sure we're catering an environment. This has always been consistent, right? Of really logical user flow within our website, but we're also tracking things in a way that's comprehensive but not overwhelming to a marketer. So, for example, utilizing out of the box Google Analytics is helpful, but it's not nearly as helpful until you really layer on Google Tag Manager, which can help track those individual events from a link click to a download to a form completion and any other type of interaction and engagement within a site. Now, do you need to track everything under the sun? No, absolutely not. Really focus on those key elements. And then ultimately, obviously, making sure your application or any type of form submission is being tracked and fed back within that. So those are the core items that. So we're just think about a GA4, Google Tag Manager. That's a piece of the pie. And when we layer on heat mapping and click tracking data from a tool such as Crazy Egg, shout out to those guys. We have a partnership with them. They've been super helpful. There are other tools out there like Microsoft Clarity and Hotjar and Lucky Orange that do a lot of the similar items. We've really focused and really loved Crazy Egg. That tells more of the story, right? You're getting heat mapping, you're getting other live click data. So marrying that with GTM and GA is really helpful. And then lastly, there's a lot of other areas, but as I mentioned before briefly, is the survey functionality. People are getting a lot of that qualitative information and bringing that all together. And is that the complete story? No, but is it really helpful and directionally accurate to make decisions about the web experience and improvements there? 100%. So that's kind of the thought process that we've had, and really making sure we're honing in on the correct data points and being able to make decisions from there.
I guess a member relationship with at a credit union doesn't just end when an account is developed. It can hopefully last years and years and years. How can data kind of help credit unions understand member lifetime value?
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, I was actually talking on the podcast to a variety of credit union executive recently. And I brought up actually one particular scenario that was specific to us at Session Interactive. We were interested in, we don't have a credit union account. We work with a bank, but we were interested in changing banks because of the lack of support and a lack of just proactive. What do we need from a business standpoint? And our legacy, our last bank we worked with just wasn't giving us any proactive communication. And moving to a newer bank, unfortunately, was much larger. We wanted to support the smaller banks, but the level of kind of white glove service, if you will. Hey, you're trending lower. How's everything going with the business? Or we realized you're taking funds out of the account consistently, but not contributing back. How's everything going? Just like basic stuff and communication that you should expect. And it's amazing how much data that these credit unions have, and banks for that matter. And it's wild, just not necessarily the misuse, but the lack of focus. It's like you've got all this member data and they're putting quite a bit of money into these accounts, and you're not being proactive with them at all. You're kind of just spinning the wheels and waiting for them to reach out. So it's like little customer service elements like that. For example, like we decided to transition financial institutions, and we were slowly making that process over a course of 3 to 4 months and decreasing our funds. A simple email, hey, how's it going? Like we noticed, like as I mentioned before, would potentially have maybe save the account for them. And we never got that. And it was unfortunate. I won't name names here, but it was just this level of support and just like basic customer service that lacks for these financial institutions. So it's really apparent. And we've seen a lot of credit unions pick that up and own the customer, the client experience so much more than some of these other financial institutions, which has been a game changer for them and adds to significant retention.
I'm guessing data improvement is not just something that you would knock out in like one afternoon, especially if you're an institution with, legacy systems or a lot of departments involved. Should there be like a 3-year data roadmap or something like that for a credit union?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think we, as we evaluate any client, whether it's credit union or not, but specifically at credit unions, it's being honest. And, a lot of these institutions we come in have legacy tracking, and it's kind of, it runs the gamut, but it's kind of either or, Chad, in the sense that some are tracking so many things and have no idea what to do with it. Others are tracking very little. And we try to kind of bridge the gap with a happy medium. And on my pitches, on these client interactions, I'm very honest and transparent with our clients to say, like, we don't need to track everything. And let's start slowly and then see what we need, and ultimately not create this convoluted mess of a tracking interface. And I always say to this as well, is there's a lot of bells and whistles within tracking. There's a lot of tools out there and things like that are, quote unquote, going to make your life easier. And, we want to just, let's focus on the conversion, these key events, making sure these are established first, and then let's evolve to additional customizations. There's no need to go nuts right away. Let's take it slow. Let's understand, is this actually providing value and making your life as a marketing professional easier? And if the answer is like, I don't know, or no, then come on. I mean, there's no need to try to upsell arbitrarily to a client. That doesn't make sense. So it's always just that kind of that pragmatic, realistic approach that we want to take, and making sure it is, again, is this going to be beneficial? And working with this industry for so long, we kind of understand the core items and the ability to evolve, but let's not evolve too quickly.
So cleaner attribution can help a marketing team maybe gain confidence to understand which channels, campaigns, and touch points are contributing to results?
Yeah, of course. I mean, again, a lot of these, it's 2026, and still a lot of these credit unions or financial institutions are functioning on really basic click data and other things. And the goal is not to overcomplicate it, as I mentioned, but it's just to make it more streamlined and intuitive to understand. It's like, oh, this action did this, and is it the full complete story with completely 100% accurate attribution? No, but is it? How do we have a larger percentage of confidence than we did before? Yes, and that's what we're really striving for. It reminds me of SEO to a certain extent. You're always focused on SEOs, maybe to their detriment, are focusing on perfection. And for analytics, we are focusing on as much accurate information as possible, but with the understanding that, listen, like, some of this is out of our control, and no platform or tool is perfect ever, and there's going to be a level of discrepancy. But if we can get that into the 80 to 90th percentile of accuracy, that is essentially good enough, and will bode much better from likely what these credit unions have established thus far.
The basic data would probably be my specialty. How do you kind of explain complex analytics to non-technical executives or people you're dealing with?
Yeah, it's like, listen, and I think like analytics, for example, is not the sexiest thing. Mm-hmm. A lot of clients and credit unions in particular are fixated on trying to get accounts created. And we get that. A lot of the credit union executives that we've talked to, as well as our existing clients, are focused on that, of course, but are more realistic around like the member experience and realizing how two things, how, this isn't groundbreaking information by any means, but around how important retention is and how important that customer experience is. It's massive, and it's arguably more important than net new. We've also met a variety of financial institutions that are just solely fixated on net new and therefore lack the retention, and that doesn't work long term. So for us, it's trying to, again, educate and outline a simplistic strategy, at least initially, that we believe is going to be impactful to them and their marketing needs, and then evolve along with them, and not to fixate on the shiny object all the time. There's so many cool things that are happening and amazing things with large language models, but we're dealing with a highly regulated industry, and we want to be careful and we want to be respectful with the member's mind in mind at all times.
I'm guessing that not every organization is maybe ready for like predictive modeling or advanced segmentation or things like that. What are signs that a credit union would be ready for those types of more advanced analytics?
Yeah, it's a journey. And I think there's, my team would roll their eyes at me a little bit. It's like it's the foundation. Like, let's be confident. Are we collectively confident in the foundation? And for us, especially onboarding a new client, we're always developing that personal rapport. And then we need to anchor it with that performance rapport. And it's the same thing with analytics. Let's kind of dip our toes. Let's make sure we have, again, that directionally accurate information as closely as possible. And then as we evolve, as we gain our performance stride, let's see what the evolution entails. And yes, typically clients that have been with us 6 to 12 months in the credit union space are generally ready, depending on the sophistication, to get into more of those advanced components and deeper integration with their CRMs and personalization, predictive analysis, et cetera. And that's the stuff we provide and we love to do, but we also want to not overwhelm our clients and not overwhelm with a bunch of irrelevant information. So, back to just what my comment or like analytics isn't very sexy because it's not a channel driver, but if you're dealing with, a sophisticated progressive marketing team, which we do quite a bit, is they realize how essential it is. And this is not just hey, we'll do a quick audit and we'll configure this and then see you later. There's always room for improvement. Sites are evolving, new pages are being generated, pages are being cut, new programs and campaigns are being launched. So there's always room to track, to restructure our tracking initiatives and to reevaluate campaign success. So, and that, of course, correlates to the success of our core other programs, our paid media channels and our organic and AEO and GEO campaigns. So, big component there to tread lightly and to kind of be methodical with our approach.
Last question for you. I know larger banks often have more resources, but credit unions usually probably have more, maybe stronger relationships or local trust, member loyalty, things like that. How can data-driven growth kind of help credit unions compete with those banks that have larger resources?
Yeah, it's a lot of education. I think it's, we've seen some, smaller institutions just do incredibly well in theoretically a competitive market. And I think it's, it starts with some of the basics, like what is a credit union? How is it different? How is it, more appealing? I think a lot of the core items around like wanting and desiring to feel like you're a part of a community entity, you're part of an actual, that aspect of, consortium of patrons that are kind of contributing back versus just another account number. And some of these larger banks, that's pretty evident. That's always been that. And that kind of turn and burn mentality. So the data is really helpful, of course, just to give more insights and to make changes, as we mentioned, and optimizations to marketing campaigns. But it's also equally as important from looking at retention and patterns and other granular information that can really assist with retention to grow existing customer bases. Member bases versus, as I mentioned before, just targeting that new. So that growth is a lot of it is coming from existing.
Okay. Good information and good insight. Thanks so much for having me today, Tyler. It was great to talk to you.
Yeah, Chad, appreciate the questions. Good stuff.
So long, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Built to Convert. If you're serious about growth, don't just listen. Subscribe, leave a review, and follow us for new episodes that drop straight into your feed. Until next time, keep building.